Man, listen, I wish I could tell you I'm in a better mood, but technology is against me today. Technology is just not working for your boy today. All right, Athletes Forum Podcast, Jamal Clay here. Thank you all for tuning in on a Wednesday. I've been failing you guys in regards to the tardiness. I will get better. The technology will get better, but I apologize. We're back in action on College Sports Crew. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're here and you're not subscribed, you got something wrong with you. You definitely should subscribe to the show. Drop a comment. Like the video. The board for today, we're talking bracket preview, actually, right? We'll get into the bracket a little bit. And we got the wheel. Now, when I say technology, I really just mean the wheel. Wheel's giving me issues again, right? But we'll worry about that a different time. All right. And we got a two-part wheel today, right? So not as jam-packed. This is more of a sentimental show, all right? More of a intimate setting type of say, right? So it's just gonna be us, and we're gonna chop it out, right? So brackets. Listen, I feel like I've said this the past couple of weeks. March Madness, I'm telling you, March Madness is gonna be nuts, and we need to gear up for it. We need to gear up for what we're about to dive into, what we're about to experience. Because last year it was really chalk. The bracket was really chalk, where you got about 4 1s or whatever it was in the Final Four, and everything went according to plan. This year, you're going to get chaos, all right? You're going to get chaos, and we're gonna dive into that a little bit. Let me go ahead and get this screen situated for you in a better light, right? And let's see let me go ahead and do this real quick for us. All right. And then we're gonna dive into this bracket preview a little bit. All right. So let's break. So ESPN, they had an article on ESPN in regards to breaking down the bracket, what it looks like as of today. And that's kind of what I wanted to dive into, right? Obviously, we got here the top seeds, last team in, first team out. Duke actually had, Caleb Foster is hurt, right? He's not gonna be able to play this year when it comes to the tournament, when it comes down the stretch. So how does this Duke team rebound from that, right? Hey, listen, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. College Football Talk. And if you're watching this, I hope you are. I love you. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. As a Gators fan, we appreciate UConn taking the loss last week, bumping us into the top 4, right? Potentially getting a 1 seed, right? So I just want to say thank you and I appreciate you for that. Sorry it had to come to that, but it was going to be one of us. Right? So let's dive into the bracket just a little bit more in regards to some news, just what we're seeing right now, right? And again, what is going on? What is going on with the technology today? All right, let's see here. All right, here we have it. ESPN kind of did like a simulated bracket in regards to what the field will actually look like if we started today, right? So in the East Division, you got Duke, right? You got Alabama in there. Who's your 2 seed? Who's your 2 seed in the East Division? Michigan State, Villanova, right? Some key matchups to kind of look forward to, right? In the Midwest Division, this one's pretty tough because you got Michigan, Ohio State, Clemson, which are going to give someone fits. Texas State, Howard A. Outside of JT Turpin, who tore his ACL, he's out for a period of time, right? Iowa State, they're going to give somebody trouble, right? We got Georgia, Chris, your dogs. Looks like they might make the tournament. UConn, Mrs. College Football Talk. Hey, if we get a Georgia, UConn, right, second round, we might have to fly these two out for the game. Chris and his wife, but in the same bracket, that's tough. I think the Midwest is kind of tough, right? Because again, Michigan was playing good ball, right? Ohio and Ohio State and Clemson are 2 teams that play real good defense. Tennessee's no slouch. Texas Tech, they've proven to be a force even despite losing their best player, right? So those are some teams, you guys have to see how this bracket breaks out, but some teams to keep an eye on. As we go in the South Division, who we got? There she is. There are the Gators. In the South Division, Florida, right? Florida comes in at number 1. again, as it's currently constituted. All right, some other teams. I'd be worried about St. John's if I was Florida, because St. John's is a team that can rebound the ball and they got good guard play. I'd be worried about St. John's. Purdue, always good, especially defensively. Louisville, Nebraska, I'm not worried about, right? Who else? Who's our 2 seed? Houston, okay. I think we got the edge over Houston. So listen, Florida as of right now, not really in the best situation. We got some teams that'll give us some fits, right? And then we look at the other side. Other side is brutal too. You got Illinois, Kentucky, Gonzaga, BYU, who's been up and down this year, Virginia, who is a different Virginia team, a Virginia team that's usually known for playing defense and not scoring points. Well, now they play defense and they score points, right? UCLA, Texas A&M, Arizona. Listen, the West and the Midwest probably got some brutal competition up there. Probably got some brutal competition in regards to teams to look out for. Right, some bubble teams to keep an eye out for. Right, Texas, I'd be interested to see if they get in. Right, Auburn, I think right now they're part of the first 4 out. San Diego State, that's a good team, but I don't think they make it. Right, I don't think they make it. So the bracket, just looking at, and then we got multiple big conferences. As of right now, teams that are currently locked in, we got 10 from the Big 10, 10 from the SEC, right? So it's not just football. Those two conferences rule. They rule basketball as well too. ACC Big 12 coming in at 8. Big East is 3. West Coast 3. A10 2 as currently constituted. And we could dive into a little bit more now. But when you just look at these matchups and kind of project, if this was to end today, like no one really has like an easy route. Everyone kind of has like a hard path even to get to the Sweet 16, right? So it's, this is why I say March Madness is going to be ridiculous, right? It's going to be ridiculous when it comes to seeing how all of this plays out, right? Because nothing's set in stone as of right now. Nothing is set in stone as of right now in regards to teams that are shoe-in. Even as a Florida Gators fan, listen, I'd be lying if I say I wasn't concerned in regards to everyone jumping on the bandwagon, right? Yeah, we beat Kentucky. It was a big win. Yeah, we got the 1 seed in the SEC tournament. Yeah, we're playing our best ball when it's needed, right? But this is an inexperienced team. This is not last year's team. Last year's team is more of a veteran team, more of an experienced team, right? This is a team that's kind of had to learn on the fly. So, listen, we can't take any team lightly. Right, and we gotta sharpen some things in the tournament as a Florida fan. But I think that as a lot of top fans, and that includes Duke losing one of your star players, right? UConn, how are you going to bounce back? Michigan probably playing really good ball right now. Came off a big win versus Michigan State over the weekend. But you got other teams that are like BYU, who's inconsistent. Iowa State, who can play ball, another team that's kind of inconsistent. St. John's is going to give any team fits because of Rick Pitino and the type of ball that he plays and the experience he has, right? In March Madness as well too. Arizona fans can hate me on the one. I still don't trust Arizona, right? Listen, you gotta have to prove it to me to see it, right? This is gonna be one of those years where a team out of nowhere, like your VCUs, your Davidsons, your St. Joseph's. This is one of those years where we're gonna see. I'm gonna say multiple Cinderella stories. Now, how far they get, I don't know. That's a topic for another day, right? Let's dive into the chat. Who's talking to us? Let's see. My guy Chris is here. Technology. It's BTA right now. Me and technology gotta have some words after this. But I just read that Kirby part. Me and you gonna have some words after this, Mr. Chris. All right. Another one. Here we go. I told Mrs. College Football Talk we could play each other, and yeah, that's an easy dub. Hey, I gotta meet Miss College Football Talk. She seems like she's a good one to talk some shit, right? She seems like a good one that I go back at her, right? Hey, listen, if you're here, drop a comment. Let's get into it. Let's talk some ball, right? We're gonna dive into what the wheel, right? My best friend, right? One of my good pieces, right? And what they gotta say, we'll talk about here as well too. But before we dive into that, it's important that we start paying the bills around here. So if you're here, subscribe to the channel. Why wouldn't you? Right? Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment, right? We're on X at College Crew, right? We're on YouTube, College Sports Crew. We're on TikTok at College Sports Crew, right? My guy Pops just did an episode right before me. Shout out to Pops, right? Back in action, right? Talking some college ball, right? I got Pops just did a show right before me, right? Glad to see he's back in the mix as well, too. All right. And listen, we're going to keep this thing going. Tomorrow we got We Talk Ball, right? We got We Talk Ball tomorrow, and we're going to see how all of this is going to start, coming together as we start getting on a more, routine, more regular schedule, so to say, okay? Now, the wheel. If this is your first time joining the show, joining Athletes Forum Podcast, the crew, right? If this is your first time being part of this team here, we got this thing called the wheel. The wheel is a fan base check-in. Every week, we're going to spin this thing, right? We're going to go over the top 25. We're going to preview the top 25 teams based on what media says in college football. We're going to give you an early breakdown. We're going to talk to you. You let us know how we should feel. Some things to look forward to. Maybe who's a dog. I just thought about that. I'm going to do a series called Dog of the Fall, right? Talking about I got to get into some film study, but I just thought about that on the spot. Good job, Jamal. All right. Let's get back to it. All right. Athletes Forum Podcast, College Sports Crew. This is the wheel. We do a fan base check-in. Let's get right into it. Let's see who's first up. Iowa. Okay. All right. We're heading to Big Ten country. We're heading to farmer country. All right. We're heading to, you got a grind country. That's what Iowa is. Iowa's full of grinders. Tight end university, some say, right? Noah Fant. Why am I forgetting his name? Right? Kittle from the 49ers, right? George Kittle, right? We're heading to Iowa. All right. Let's talk about this. Iowa. Will they be the surprise of the Big Ten next year? Simple question, right? Simple question. Will they be the surprise of the Big Ten next year? Iowa's always a team that gives anyone and everyone fits, right? This is a team that went 9-4 last year. They beat Vanderbilt in their bowl game, right? They beat Vanderbilt in the bowl game in the bowl year where the Big Ten, dominated for the most part. Now, some storylines to think about when you're thinking about Iowa, right? It's literally it's always kind of been like the same question when you think about Iowa, and it's, can the offense catch up to the defense, right? Can the offense hold their own when it comes to the defense, right? When you think about their quarterbacks, right? That's good. Now more than ever, that's the biggest question with Iowa this year, right? So who are the quarterbacks for Iowa heading into this season, heading into spring ball? You got Hank Brown Jr., right? Comes from Auburn. And then you got Jeremy Hexlinski, right? Quarterback who got some time last year, right, from Wake Forest, but he's been with the program already, obviously. Those are the two going at it for Iowa. Two names you want to get used to, right? This is going to be a team, obviously, a veteran offensive line, a bunch of dogs and grown men up front, right? Can they solidify that quarterback position? Can that quarterback produce enough where the defense doesn't have to worry about being the focal point, right, for that team for that year, right? Now, can they survive the Big Ten? In my opinion, and we'll break down the schedule, you get through your first 6 games, 5-1, 4-2. Listen, I'm telling you, you'll see why. They might be a surprise team to keep an eye on in the Big Ten, right? So I want you to stay close to that, and I'll talk about that when we get to the schedule. All right. In regards to the team, key returners, sophomore tight end DJ Bana. I'm gonna mess up this name. DJ Banahami, right? Basically, he led the team in receiving. Triple crown, led in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, right? And then you got some dogs at receiver. You got a 6'4", 215-pound receiver and Reese Vanderzee Jr. And then you got a running back in Kamari Moulton Jr., where that offense is going to have to rely heavy on those two guys in regards to production, in regards to moving those sticks to pair up with DJ. And I already mentioned their offensive line is always solid, right? Listen, you can just shop in your backyard. You can just shop in the Midwest when it comes to the grown men up front, right? You don't have to worry about offensive line when it comes to Iowa. Now, defensively, They're led by some guys, and one of the guys who's on the screen right now, Zach Lutner, safety, DB. I like him a lot. Listen, this guy is a dog, right? This guy will get after it, right? He's going to have to be a leader of that defense along with D lineman Ethan Herkett, or I forgot his name. I'm sorry. Ethan on the D line, and then linebacker Carson Scherer, right? Those guys are going to have to be focal points of that defense. And listen, I didn't play for Iowa, but I played in Iowa's defense in college. This is a traditional, most of the time, a 4-3 quarters defense. Now, what does that mean? Safeties are aggressive in the run game. They're also aggressive in matching routes in the intermediate area, right? So sometimes that may leave the corner on the island if you get a high-low concept, all right, especially if they're in cover 4. They'll mix up some cover 2 as well, too, and then whenever they're blitzing, usually it's cover 3 or cover 1, right? And what football nerds will talk about, they call it a dog blitz. So I played in that defense. That defense has been the focal point and the identity of Iowa for years, a number of years, more than I can count, right? They've never really had an offense that, I don't want to sell them short, but they never really had an offense to kind of take pressure off the defense. And that's why they win these 16-14 games. That's why they win these 9-6 type of games, right? Because now don't get me wrong, their offense does their part. I don't want to just come at, their offense and Iowa fans. I don't want you to think that, but you know what I mean. It's never been a high-powered offense. It's never been an offense to put up 30, 40, points per game. Like they win ugly, and that's their identity, and that's how they do it, right? So let's dive into the schedule a little bit. Iowa. This is what I mean by Iowa schedule, right? When you look at their schedule and you look at their first couple of games, if they could split that Michigan Ohio State back-to-back, and you look at the remainder of their schedule, they're playing with house money. I'm telling you, Iowa is playing with house money if they could do that, right? Because, again, Northern Illinois, Iowa State, which is their rivals, but we saw what's going on with Iowa State and losing Matt Campbell and losing the amount of guys that they had. University of Northern Iowa, right? And then you go Michigan, Ohio State. Now, don't get it twisted. Washington's going to be a challenge too, right? You got a young Michigan team that started a lot of freshmen, especially on offense returning. You got an Ohio State team who, let's be frank, has been running the Big Ten except for last year, right? And then you got Washington, right? Washington that's a rough 3-week stretch if I'm Iowa. That's a rough 3-week stretch. And then you got your rivals, Minnesota, right? And then you finish with Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska. So Iowa is a team where if I'm looking at it, if you could get the 5-1, I'm not gonna say healthy. That's a long ass. But if you could get the 5-1, and obviously play well the rest of the way, which is again not easy. But basically, what I'm saying is Iowa has a legitimate shot at being a contender in the Big Ten, right? You don't got to worry about Oregon. You don't got to worry about Penn State. You don't got to worry about Indiana. You don't got to worry about USC, right? There's some teams you don't have to worry about going through, right? So listen, I know it's early. I don't want to jump the gun on Iowa, but Iowa's gonna be a team I'm watching. Iowa's gonna be a team I'm watching for sure. My question. First of all, challenges for Iowa. Again, it's been the same. Offensive production. Can they get over the hump? Right? They're not going to win the NIL battle. Therefore, they're not always going to bring in the top talent, right? But can they make teams play their style of ball, right, for 4 quarters? That's going to be the challenge. That's going to be a challenge. So my question for Iowa fans, you let me know what you think. How do we feel about this Iowa team, obviously heading into spring ball, heading into next season, knowing what the schedule looks like? Are we optimistic? Are we curious? Right? You guys talk to me. Let me know what you think about that. All right, before we get to the next wheel, let's dive into the chat. Who is this? Oh man. I gotta figure out who that is. Someone's in my chat right now. Let me know. Yeah, who's in the chat right now? Go Huskies. Washington. Oh, I have a Washington fan in here. Hey, what's going on, big dog? Listen, if it's someone I know, I apologize. I don't understand who it is by the user tag. But listen, I'll get to Washington. But what do you feel about your quarterback? Are you happy to have him back? Hey, Mrs. Listen, this is when you know you made it in life. When Mrs. College Football Talk jumps in on the chat, this is when you know you made it in life, right? Hey, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the Huskies losing. All right, before we get in trouble here, let's go to the next topic. I love that. All right, so I got a 2-part wheel for you today. All right, let's dive in to see who's the next team we're talking about. All right. Who's next on the wheel? Ohio State, the presumptive number 1 team right now, based on what a lot of people feel like they're going to be. All right, let's dive into the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? This is a team, I just did a show last week. They were ranked 8th as one of the most hated teams. Drop a comment. Let me know how you feel about Ohio State. I don't think they're that bad, but some people do. Let's talk about Ohio State. Young but experienced. How does towards the end of last year's failures, groom this Ohio State team? Groom this 2026 Ohio State team. A team where a lot of these guys play last year, what's next for them, right? Did those young guys learn from that experience, right? Obviously, you got Jeremiah Smith, but Julian Sayin, Bo Jackson, Kenyatt Jackson, right? What did those guys learn from the failures of last year? Losing the Big Ten title, losing in the playoffs, right? Again, Ohio State's always going to have pressure. How are those guys going to handle it going into this year? Art Smith, new OC, how does he adjust to the college game? How does he adjust to really the expectations of Ohio, being with Ryan Day, being with that team, right? A national championship robust. What is Arthur Smith going to implement into this Ohio State team? Now, I thought it was a weird hire, but who am I to question Ryan Day when I thought Matt Patricia was a weird hire, and Matt Patricia only led this team to having one of the best defenses in college football history, right? So this is one of those things where you just got to trust Ryan Day. Right? Now, Matt Patricia, new $3 million man a year, right? You should donate some of that to the College Sports Crew and Athletes Forum podcast, my friend, right? How is he going to adjust to losing the amount of talent he lost on defense? Because, man, they lost a lot of talent, including potentially 3 top 5, top 10 draft picks, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, right? Literally hit you at linebacker and you're one of your best defenders, right? Jim Thorpe winner, Caleb Downs. Not to mention they're going to lose some D linemen up front as well, too. Names we need to know, names we should learn about, right? First of all, big-time recruit, Chris Henry Jr. Obviously, his dad played in the NFL for the Bengals with Chad Johnson, a.k.a. Chad Ochocinco. This is a guy who is taller than Jeremiah Smith, not as built out, but a guy that could do some damage at the college level and is college level ready, right? Then you got Devin McEwen, Brandon Ennis, they're coming in the mix as wide receiver. What does this group look like without Brian Hartline not as the receiver coach? Brian Hartline now new head coach at USF. What is this? What's the development of this receiver group going to look like? That's one thing I'm curious to find out, right? Julian Sayin, what's his maturation look like, right? Because this is a guy that when we saw later down the year in the season, did he rely a little bit too much on Jeremiah Smith, right? Was he able to see the field as people thought, right? I know he had one of the record-ish, completion percentages, right? But what's the next step for him look like, right? Getting a little taste of success as a starter. What does that look like in this offseason and heading into spring ball, right? The O-line, they got to get some things fixed on the O-line because Indiana exposed them on that, especially on that right side. And Miami did the same thing. So Ohio State not coming in preseason as dominant as people may think, especially if they are rated number 1. We got to wait till the AP poll comes out. I don't think they're coming in as strong as they did in the past. There's still some holes that got to be fixed, right? And defensively, right? Names you need to hear, especially up front D-line. Edric Houston, Will Smith Jr., Jason Moore. All guys that are returning. either rotational starters, second or third string, guys that have to really replace production on that defensive front. Linebacker, DB, huge holes. Listen, if you lose Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, two guys, All-American, 4-4 guys, going to be top 10 picks in the NFL draft. You lose those guys, it's going to be a challenge for any first-year starter. So who are those guys? Who are those guys coming into the mix? DB, right? Obviously, you lose Caleb Downs. You got Kenyon Jackson coming back. I like what they did in the portal. You got Earl Little Jr. He was a safety from Florida State, right? You got Terry Moore, who was a safety from Duke, 116 tackles, 4 interceptions, right? Cam Calhoun, right? DB from Bama. So they replaced some guys. They went in, to go get some guys. Now, what does that cohesion look like? Because they're all going to be playing together for the first time. Another name you need to keep an eye on is James Smith, right? D lineman from Alabama, transferred to Ohio State. I'm sorry, Austin. It had to happen, right? He's going to compete with Edric Houston. Maybe Will Smith Jr., right, for that starter. But Edric Houston and James Smith will be battling for that number one spot, barring any injury, right? So, Ohio State, listen, there's some questions about Ohio State, right? Let's dive into that schedule and what that schedule looks like for the good old Buckeyes. Listen, there's some things we need to look at here, right? Because we got Ball State right before Texas. Nice little warm-up, right? And then you got Kent State, all right? Illinois, what's that going to look like? Iowa, we talked about that in the Iowa breakdown. Go ahead and check that out if you missed it. Iowa's going to be tough. Maryland. And then you got Indiana, that game you've been wanting for, right? At the end, you go to USC, which should be a better USC team. I know some people, cough, cough, may think USC's nothing to slouch about. But listen, USC could cause some problems, right? Not only that, you get Oregon at home. That's a rough 3-game stretch, right? And then you get Northwestern, Nebraska, and then I'm not going to call them what you guys call them. I'm going to call them Big Blue Michigan, right? Michigan, right? So they're outside Texas. Their second half is hard. It's going to be hard. And how are they going to overcome it? Because especially with how committee looks at things now, right? You never know what's going to matter and what's going to look like in their eyes. And the way I look at that, again, way too early. They're playing a lot of playoff games toward the end of the year, right? This is going to be one of those years where they wish they had a 2014 playoff, right? Not just them, a couple other teams as well too, right? Listen, this is not a season where Ohio State could just coast through, right? This is going to be a season where they're going to have to put their best foot forward week after week after week, and it starts with that Indiana game, right? Now, questions I have for Ohio State fans. What are your concerns heading into spring ball, heading into the season? Is it Arthur Smith, right? Is it your linebacker DB production and what that's going to look like, right? Do you have enough weapons, right, outside of Jeremiah Smith that are going to perform at the level they need to perform? Is it Julian Sayin? Or are you good? Are you good, right? Ohio State fans, you guys let me know what you think. Drop a comment, right? Ohio State, right? What does next season look like for Ohio State? What are realistic expectations for Ohio State? Listen, Athletes Forum Podcast. This is an awesome show. All right. Be a friend, tell a friend, right? I got plenty of friends that tell me this is an awesome show. Now, whether they're make believe or not, that's for you to find out. But subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, let me know what you guys think. Tomorrow we talk ball. If you missed it, my guy Pops, Veteran of Voice Sports Talk Podcast, right? Go check that out, right? And then The Wheel gave us a double session tonight. Now, let's think about it. The Wheel. We went BYU, Texas Tech. We went LSU. We went Ohio State. We went Iowa. Five wheels so far, right? There's still 20 more teams we got to go through. You guys let me know what you think. Next week, we're back again with The Wheel. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Athletes Forum Podcast.